Well, good morning. Good morning. I get the amazing privilege and honor to speak this morning. I say it like that because I hate it. But it's a privilege, and I'm going to take it and do it with an open heart. And I know that the Lord has something for me in this, and also something for you. And who was either here or listened to last week's message from Aaron? Can you just raise your hands? Okay. Specifically, you guys, you get to you know about offense, right? That's what he talked about. Blessed are those who are not offended. So today, you cannot get offended. And then those who didn't listen to it, you cannot get offended. Okay? We're better off when we walk through life not being offended and forgiving and not letting things hurt us. And I'm going to just start with something that our lovely Sue Justice always says when she shares things, when she hears things from the Lord during prayer times. She always says, sift and see. And what that means is I'm going to say stuff that might go, and I just leave it on you. It's your responsibility to sift through that and see, is that from the Lord and is that for you? And be honest with yourself. Or did that just go boom and you're like, I don't think that was God. And so that's your responsibility today. I feel like what I'm going to say is for our body, and not just for today, but for what we're headed into and like for weeks and months and years in the future. And so it's really a special, I think, going to be a really kind of profound thing. With that being said, as many of you know, Aaron and I just got back from a couple different missions trips. And St. Lucia, which Nathan mentioned, is one of my favorite places in the world. If you know anything about St. Lucia, it's like a top honeymoon spot. It's just total beauty. It's just an amazing place. I've been there probably 7, maybe 6 times. And so this most recent time that we went was the most uncomfortable time that I've ever had. And it really threw me off. I don't know why I get emotional about it, but it's like when we step off the plane, it's like we're home. We feel like we're home. Aaron and I both look at each other and we're like, we're home, because we just feel such comfort in being there. But for whatever reason, we stepped off the plane and we said that. And then we walked a little further and we got into the airport, and the airport's not air conditioned when you land. You walk off the plane onto the tarmac, okay? And then you walk in and you get your luggage, and it's chaos and it's small, and you're just kind of figuring out, where am I going? Did I just say yes to a taxi that I don't need? You're like, you're frantic. And so then our friends are right there, and so we get to talk to them, and I immediately was dripping sweat. And like, okay, obviously it's hot there, but like I immediately started just feeling completely uncomfortable. And it was like, I don't know, this is just a weird thing. It's like usually I can like work through it and just like get over it, you're sweating, who cares? But it was just like nagging at me. And then we got in our car, and our car's air conditioning wasn't the best, and so I was just sweating. I just couldn't get comfortable. And then we went and ate at our favorite lunch spot, and it was hot, and I could not get comfortable. And this just continued, because then we got to our beautiful Airbnb. Disclaimer, I'm not complaining, because I know I'm blessed to be able to be there, but there was something that the Lord was doing in the uncomfortable with me. We got to our Airbnb, no air conditioning, open air, which doesn't that just sound amazing? But what if there's no air? What if the wind isn't blowing? It's hot. We were so hot. We were kind of semi-fighting over fans. I was like, can we please have the fan? Josh, your daughters have a fan. Take the fan from your daughters and give it to yourself. And like, we were just like, bleh. I was just really struggling. So this is just kind of all laying the foundation for the Lord is calling. I don't think it was just for me. I think it was just for me, but I don't think it was also just for me. He is calling us to get uncomfortable. He is saying, get out of your comfort zone. And that's just where we're going with all of this today. So that happened. Water's hard to come by. So we're like all hoarding water bottles. And then like we'd see a water bottle that was half full, and we're and Aaron kind of got off on a water tangent. He was just like, whose water bottle is that? Who's drinking the water bottle? Because we were just like, we were constantly thirsty and all this stuff. And then were the bugs. The bugs were atrocious. I'm telling you, I don't think they've ever been so bad. All of our legs, from our feet to our knees, were covered in tons and tons of these little red dots, and we were just like the whole time. So you're sweaty, you're just the whole time. Like, it just was like, for me, this perfect like storm. And so I was working through it, and also I'm on a missions trip. It's not supposed to be comfortable and all these things, right? And the Lord just began to speak to me, and I got home, and I think it was hot here when we came back. It was just like something about the heat. And then I went to the Dominican with him, and same thing. It was just so hot. And I just found myself constantly in this state of unrest and not peace. And then I felt like I was like ashamed. I'm like, how dare I? And so I just think that the Lord is just saying it's time to figure out, like, where are we living in comfort? And not that we shouldn't have pleasure and enjoy life and have comfort, right? But sometimes we get hooked into all the things and all the situations, and this and that is our comfort, not Him. The Bible is very clear that He is our comfort. So that being said, I think I did enough little intro there. Do you agree to not be offended? Okay, you've agreed to not be offended. Now here is what I want you to do. You ready? I want you to, if you're physically able, I want you to get up and I want you to move your seat. I want you to go sit somewhere else, okay? You've got 3 minutes to make it happen. Move. And you can sit by the same person. I don't care. Just go to a new spot. I'm verifying that you moved. I pretty much know where you mostly sit. I do see some people. Did you move? Move your body. Oh, you switched. This is amazing. Okay. Are you now? Okay, let's do this. There's still some people finding spots. That's totally fine. Raise your hand if that was amazing, you loved it, and that was so comfortable for you. Was there anybody in the room? Okay, there's some of you. Raise your hand if that made you just get so uncomfortable and you were like, I hate my life at this moment. Only a few. I for sure thought there'd be more of you. Oh my gosh. There's something about, specifically in the church, when we walk in and like, someone's in my seat. And then you start freaking out, and then you start getting mad. Like, why? I've been sitting in this seat for 10 years. Don't they know? That's my spot. That, to me, this is like the best scenario to like mess us up and say, I need to deal with some stuff. And I would honestly challenge you to move your seat from week to week on Sundays. I'm serious. Don't get comfortable. What if the very spot that you moved to, the Lord has someone that's sitting in that spot that you wouldn't have met if you sat in your same seat week after week? I am just as guilty. I'll tell you this right now. When this thing expands, I'm moving my seat. I'm not staying in the same spot. I am. And so you better too, but you don't have to. It's up to you. Okay? It causes us to be comfortable. And we don't realize it. But those things become an automatic comfort, and it takes the place of the Lord being the one who comforts us. And I'm not judging, but I'm just examine yourself. Did you stay in your same section? Did anyone actually go from this side to that side, or that side to this side? I mean, come on, right? Okay, so this is just the Lord is working in us. Okay, so now that everybody's situated, are you comfortable now? Good. Okay. I got 3 stories in the Bible and 3 things that I think that the Lord is just gonna teach us today, just to remind us of. Sometimes it's like the things we hear, we already knew it. We either forgot it, we didn't let it go deep, or we just chose to ignore it. you know? And so the first one, and this is an obvious story, many of us have heard it, is the story in Exodus, obviously, with the Israelites, right? I want to read Exodus 14:10 through 18. And the first point is this, that when we get uncomfortable, God gets the glory, okay? So number one, God gets the glory. So here we go in Exodus. I have a Bible, but I type out all my verses so that it's just easier for me to read. As Pharaoh approached, the people of Israel looked up and panicked when they saw the Egyptians overtaking them. They cried out to the Lord and they said to Moses, "Why did you bring us out here to die in the wilderness? Weren't there enough graves for us in Egypt? What have you done to us? Why did you make us leave Egypt? Didn't we tell you this would happen while we were still in Egypt? We said, 'Leave us alone. Let us be slaves to the Egyptians.' It's better to be a slave in Egypt than a corpse in the wilderness." But Moses told the people, "Don't be afraid. Just stand still and watch the Lord rescue you today. The Egyptians you see today will never be seen again. The Lord himself will fight for you. Just stay calm." Then the Lord said to Moses, "Why are you crying out to me? Tell the people to get moving. Pick up your staff and raise your hand over the sea. Divide the water so the Israelites can walk through the middle of the sea on dry ground. And I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians. They will charge in after the Israelites. My great glory will be displayed through Pharaoh and his troops, his chariots and his charioteers. When my glory is displayed through them, all Egypt will see my glory and know that I am God." And every time I read this, I always get hung up on the fact that we say things like, well, they wanted to go back to their comfort zone. They'd rather stay in comfort and die there in slavery than be set free. And that is exactly the point today. But the thing that I often miss is that in their discomfort, God got the glory. It is not just about you. He is not trying to punish you, make you feel miserable. No, he gets the glory, and he's going to do what it takes so that he can get the glory. Now, they wanted to stay in the slavery, comfort in their mess. That was the other takeaway I had on this. You might act like you don't do this, but sometimes we just want to stay in our junk. We refuse because it'd be really discomforting or uncomfortable to deal with our stuff. And I'm telling you this, upper room, we are not a place that would tolerate that in that sense. You are more than welcome to keep coming here, but we will not stop pursuing wholeness and encouraging you to do the same. If you walk out of these doors week after week, it's because you're choosing to stay and hang on to the stuff that the Lord wants to deal with in you. And we're not, like, I know I can speak for our team. We're not satisfied with that. Why? It's the freedom that was talked about this morning in the communion time. He died so that we could be free. Why is it so enjoyable for us to live in our junk? Okay? And so in our mess is where we get uncomfortable addressing it. It doesn't make me comfortable when I have to admit that I have an issue that I need to work on. I'd rather just say, it's not me, it's you. You need to deal with that, and I'm fine. That's more comfortable for me, I'm just saying. In the gym, I have a hard time, I have a hard time going, I'm too weak, or I need to do that better. I'd rather just say, look at them, they're doing amazing. So it's within us are the things that God is asking us to deal with in our junk, in our mess. Come on. I'm saying this because as we expand and as we grow, there's going to be people that come in with messes. There's going to be people that come in and look different than us. There's going to be people that come in, and today we came in, and there's people in sin. There's people living lifestyles that we don't agree with. What are we going to do about it? We're going to love them. This is what we're going to do. We're going to love them. We're going to hate their sin, of course, but we're going to love them, and we're going to see them get transformed. I'm telling you, if that isn't something that you're capable of doing, if that makes you uncomfortable, you might just want to start considering a place that you feel more comfortable in. And I would never want anyone to leave. But if you can't handle dealing with messes in yourself or with people who are coming, then you're not in the right place. You're not in the right place here. And then I would say, you need to get messy before the Lord. You do. You need to address your mess. And then God gets the glory. How many testimonies? Think back to baptisms. We hear amazing testimonies of people who came in a mess. They were willing to deal with their mess. It was not comfortable. And then God got the glory as people stood up here and gave it to him. I just think this is so, so important. All right. Here's something else to remind ourselves of. There's no need for God. There's no need for a savior when everything's so comfortable. Right? I mean, maybe you're like really, really good at this, but when things are going really smooth, we tend to not be on our knees as often. We tend not to be praying or reading our Bible. Like sometimes that's just our human flesh. But when things are comfortable and we're walking those ways, there's no need for a savior. I was crying out to the Lord when I was sweating, grumpy, and pretty much hating everyone that was around me on my missions trips. I'm like, Jesus, you need to help me. I need you, right? If I had total comfort, would I have said, Jesus, I need you? I don't know. And so when we're living totally comfortable all the time, there's no need for him. 2 Corinthians 1:3, it says, all praise to God, the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. God is our merciful Father and the source of all comfort. I cannot determine if you have allowed God to be your entire source of comfort. You have to do the work to figure that out. You just have, all it takes is, Lord, evaluate my heart. Search my heart. Are you my source of comfort? Is there something else I'm relying on? Are you asking me to do something and I'm saying no because I don't want to be uncomfortable? I don't want to be inconvenienced, right? All right, Psalm 23:4, even when I walk through the darkest valley, I will not be afraid, for you are close beside me. Your rod and your staff protect and comfort me. I'm just reading that because there is a promise. And the promise is that he will comfort you. If you don't want to face your mess, it's a trust issue. Okay? He will comfort you as you walk it out. He will. It's a promise. You got to face it. Okay, number 2, moving on. Number 2. So number 1, God gets the glory. Number 2, when we're uncomfortable, we grow. We grow. Okay, the story of Jonah is an oldie but a goodie, okay? When we think of the story of Jonah, we think Jonah was swallowed by a whale, and he wouldn't go to Nineveh, and he was swallowed by a whale. Yes, all true. Fast forward, he's in the whale. He gets spit out by the whale. Basically, the Lord's like, now I'm telling you to go to Nineveh and tell these people these things, and he does it. What I want to read is Jonah 4:5-10. So I've caught you up to speed on the story, but now we're on verse 5. It says, Jonah had gone out and sat down at a place east of the city. This is after he had done what the Lord had asked him to do. There he made himself a shelter, sat in its shade, and waited to see what would happen in the city. Then the Lord God provided a leafy plant and made it grow up over Jonah to give shade for his head to ease his discomfort. And Jonah was very happy about the plant, super happy. But at dawn, the next day, God provided a worm which chewed the plant so that it withered. When the sun rose, God provided a scorching east wind, and the sun blazed on Jonah's head. I feel like this is what the Lord did to me on my trip, so that he grew faint. He wanted to die and said, it would be better for me to die than to live. But God said to Jonah, is it right for you to be angry about the plant? It is, he said, and I'm so angry I wish I were dead. How many of you have ever said that? Be honest, like, just kill me now. Okay. But the Lord said, you have been concerned about this plant, though you did not tend it or make it grow. It sprang up overnight and died overnight. So in his comfort, he was feeling amazing. He did nothing to tend what the Lord had given him because of his comfort. And so that is so interesting. When we sit in comfort all the time, we tend to get lax, and we don't tend to ourselves, to the things the Lord has given us, to our marriages. This goes right along with what we're praying into. When we feel like, things in our marriage are fine, and we don't tend to it, what happens? It dies. It dies. You have to tend to things. And when we get comfort, uncomfortable, we start to take things for granted. And the next thing you know, something's gone, and you're like, what the heck just happened? Right? And so this is the opportunity for us to grow. If Jonah had tended to that plant, I believe it would have continued to grow. The Lord would have continued to shelter him. He would have continued to be comfortable. But it was his lack of tending to it that caused it not to grow. So we take things for granted. And have you heard this quote? I have no idea who says it, but it's, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. That is exactly this. If you do not tend to things and you just always stay comfortable, and it's like, well, that worked 10 years ago, so we're just going to keep doing it. You're going to end up with the same thing, and then it's going to die. If upper room, if we always did what we did the day it opened, it would have died. You cannot just stay in comfort. There were so many choices and transitions and things that happened that were not comfortable. This whole thing has not been comfortable. There's been, some of you have walked in and you're like, why isn't there electricity? Why isn't the toilet flushing? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, why? Where's Steve Walters at? He walks in every Wednesday and he has to do a full cleaning in the room that he teaches in. It's not comfortable. You have to tend to things. He had to go in and he had to tend to the room and clean it up. And there's growth that comes because of that. If you always do what you've always done because it's comfortable, it will die or it will just stay the same. And are you happy with the same thing all the time? No, we want to grow. We are wired to grow. We are. Okay. Do you guys know I love you? I feel like this is aggressive. All right, let's stop for a funny thought. Here is a list of things that make me uncomfortable. Are you ready? Number 1, preaching. Number 2, discussions about poop. That makes me so uncomfortable. Some of you are like, this is an amazing conversation. I'm like, this is so awkward. But on that note, I'll put another tangent under that. Sitting on a warm toilet seat. That is so disgusting. That makes me so uncomfortable. I don't sit on public toilets, just putting that out there. But on my own house, if I sit down and it's warm, I'm like, ugh, it's so gross. Confrontation. Confrontation makes me want to hide. It wants me to, I feel like I'm going to crawl out of my skin. Josh knows this. I'm like, always, Josh, can you just do this for me? I hate confrontation because I don't want to hurt people. And if things already feel fine, why do we ruffle it? You know? And so but it's so important. It is so important. Let me go on this for a minute. You have to confront things. When people hurt you, you have to confront it. You have to. It is, number 1, biblical. The Bible tells us if someone hurts you and you have an ought against them, you go to them and you tell them, not in a but there's a healthy way to confront things. You have to do that. I will say this because I'm doing a personal and then I'm also doing a upper room style. Upper room is a place where we will confront things. We are not a place that will just kind of push things under the rug and act like everyone's fine. So there's another opportunity. If you are not that type of person, then this is not the place for you, because as we grow, I am pretty certain that there's going to be times where people are offended, people are hurt. We have to come together as a body and say, I'm going to confront it. I'm going to address it. I'm not going to live in offense, like Aaron said last week. I'm going to address it. I'm not going to go to my friend and tell my friend what they did, and now I feel better and it's over. Wrong, 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 wrong. And I'm not going to go to my friend and say, can you pray because, and no, wrong, wrong. Okay? We are going to confront things. This is not a place of gossip. It is not a place where we talk bad about others. If you're hurt, tell people. Tell the person. Tell the person they hurt you. 99% of the time, they don't even know they hurt you. Okay? All right. That was a major tangent of things that make me uncomfortable. But I have done it, and I will continue to, even though I hate it. Okay. Another one. Putting my feet, my bare feet, in soaking wet shoes, like tennis shoes. Ah, that is the worst. Olivia and I went to Kings Island on Friday, and we got poured on. We thought we were going to beat the storm to our car. We absolutely did not. Our shoes and socks were pouring water, and I tried to put my foot in the shoe because I was like, I don't think I should drive home in bare feet. I could not do it. It was so disgusting. Like the water goes through your toes. It just makes me so uncomfortable. Okay, getting to know new people in the sense of like where I have to make myself initiate a conversation. Ugh, I hate that. Did anybody ever, I don't know if anybody watches New Girl. Some of the stuff's not appropriate. However, Nick, one of the main characters, whenever he has to do something that makes him feel awkward, he's always like, and tries to slink back into a wall. This is what I feel like when I'm in a room full of new people and I'm like, I need to start a conversation. I need to go meet people. Like, I hate it. Makes me so uncomfortable. Okay, here's full disclosure. When I'm not in control, makes me uncomfortable. It really, really does. And there's times, I've learned this about myself, just because I've been a stay-at-home mom for so many years, my role here at Upper Room, and most of the things that I'm a part of, I have say and get to speak into having control. And so over the last year or two, I've been in roles where I'm not in control, and it has taken me a couple of months to figure out what is my problem. And it's because I'm not in control, and I'm mad, and it's like, what is wrong with them? And it's just so hard for me. It makes me really, really uncomfortable. Another one is when I can't connect with someone because of a language barrier. I hate that. And that was highlighted while we were on our trip too, because it's like I love being relational, obviously with people I know, because I just said with new people it's hard. But I like to connect. And when I can't talk and communicate, and you're just like, it's so hard. It makes me so uncomfortable. And then last but not least, when there's injustice, and I know that I'm not supposed to address it or say anything. Like I just told Aaron the other day, because, we've shared stuff that we've been through with our daughters over the last year, and things are starting to kind of amp up again. And I had a moment where I just was crying, and I was just like, I am so sick of staying silent in the name of like honor and respect. There's nothing wrong with that. It's actually the right thing to do. It's talking about a culture of honor. There's a time and a way and a place in which things are confronted, like I said. But there's a time when you are silent, out of honor, when there's just there's proper ways to go about things and address things. And when the Lord isn't telling you to address something yet, and you sit and it's probably the lack of control issue as well. But anyways, it makes me so uncomfortable, and I might be teetering into anger. I'm not sure. I asked Aaron, I was like, tell me all the things that make me feel uncomfortable. And he started listing all this stuff, and I was like, all those things make me mad. I want to know what makes me uncomfortable. And as he was telling me like this list, I was like getting mad. I was like, yeah, I know, I hate that, But two different things, I think. But I guess uncomfortableness does cause us maybe to be angry sometimes, I think. All right. Now, back to the original. I want to grow. And being uncomfortable is going to be a key in that. We have to press in to what the Lord is doing, even when it's not comfortable. I think the Lord is at Upper Room taking us through seasons and changes when his heart is for something, but we have been so used to how it's been done, and it's uncomfortable. We know it's what he's saying. It's so uncomfortable to press into it. And here's where things get tricky. Is it uncomfortable and it's the Lord? It's uncomfortable and it's the Lord. Or are you trying to discern something and it's uncomfortable and you're saying it's not the Lord, but it really is? Does that make sense? Sometimes we go, I'm not feeling that. That wasn't God. It was. You're just uncomfortable and you don't like it. You're just uncomfortable and it's messing with you. And so you're saying it's not the Lord. That's big. I think that as we move and transition into what God's doing here, we have to keep that in mind. We want to grow. You want to grow as individuals. I want to grow. We as a body want to grow. We want the kingdom to grow. And so is it the Lord and it makes me uncomfortable? Or am I just saying it, no, it's not the Lord because I don't want to be comfortable? That, I think if you were writing things down, that might be something you'd write down. But okay, when we get to our new building, as we open things up, the building's going to be new. You might not like some of the things that are done. You might not like the paint color. Raise your hand if you notice that the lobby is a completely different color. Not even half of you. And it is a huge change. Huge. Now you'll know when you walk out. I didn't like it. I'm honest with you. I do not necessarily love it right now. But I think it'll grow on me. But what are you going to do? It's done, right? And I'm willing to have change. That's fine. Change is great. New people, I already said that. New experiences, that's kind of what I was touching on. God never changes, right? But he continually gives us new revelation of him. Just because something comes out of the mouths up here and you've never heard it, number one, it's your job, I said this at the beginning, to discern and make sure that it's biblical. Number one, I hope that all of you go home today and make sure that everything I'm saying is biblical. But number two, it's also your job to be open. If you hear something, don't immediately go, whoa, I've never heard that. Red X, wrong. You're not allowing yourself to grow. You're not. And here we go. We're going to okay, that was kind of negative, but just don't stay comfortable. Okay, number three. Lives change. Lives change. Number one, God gets the glory. Number two, we grow. Number three, lives change. And so I want to read Luke 21, 1 through 4. While Jesus was in the temple, he watched the rich people dropping their gifts in the collection box. Then a poor widow came by and dropped in 2 small coins. I tell you the truth, Jesus said, this poor widow has given more than all the rest of them, for they have given a tiny part of their surplus. But she, poor as she is, has given everything she has. Now, we've heard this story a lot, and we look at it and we go, okay, she gave all she had. But one thing I learned this week as I was studying this out, one thought I had was the rich people, they gave great gifts, but it was comfortable. It didn't change their life. They were giving out of their surplus. It didn't do a darn thing because they had what they needed and they still had more to get more of what they wanted and needed. It didn't change anything for them. She gave it all. Her life was changed. She had to trust and have faith and figure out, what am I going to do now? It was a huge, huge sacrifice. And so that was comfortable for the rich ones, right? Because it didn't cause them anything. For her, it was very uncomfortable. She had to give all she had. She decided to give all that she had. And this is how it is with us. So I would say, we get to evaluate with my time. This is an old Sunday school teaching lesson. But what am I doing with my time? Am I saying, oh, yeah, all right, I have 5 hours. I'm only going to give 1 to that. Or am I saying I have 5 hours and I'm giving all 5 to that? Are we going with that kind of thing with our time, our talent? What giftings and things do we have on our lives that we can give out to others? Are we giving all that we have out of our gifting? God didn't give us our gifting just so that you could have a job, make money, and then sit on your couch at night and watch your favorite TV shows. He didn't. He gave you the gift that you have, the gifts that you have to go out and change lives with it. Your life has changed as you sacrifice in that way. Your life doesn't stay the same. Now, I'm not going to tell a story about money and not talk about tithe, right? So I said time, talent, tithes, finances. This is a beautiful thing because I get to intro this. And I'm not going to preach on it. Aaron will. It's going to be so amazing. I think this just kind of opens us up to start thinking about our money. And it's a touchy topic because the church throughout history has done perverse things with the money that's been given. It hasn't been used for God. Period. Just hasn't. That's a fact. But God gives you that money, and when he asks for your 10%, it is not up to you to determine if you think it's okay that you give that or judge whatever. What I'm trying to say is you give it out of obedience, and it is now up to the Lord how and what goes on with it. Does that make sense? So if the place that you're giving it, if you're like, I don't think they're going to do the right thing with it, that's not your responsibility to determine. Your responsibility is to be obedient to what he says. And so this goes right back to this whole thing. Our lives change. We've heard story after story after story how people's lives are changed by their obedience of tithe and offering. The rich people gave from their surplus. The one who didn't have much gave it all, and her life changed. And so that's just kind of like this opportunity to start thinking into, am I going to stay comfortable and just give what I've always given, or not give because that's comfortable to me? It's very uncomfortable if I give and I don't know if I'll have enough for all my basic needs. That's uncomfortable. But it goes back to, are you going to stay in comfort and it makes me think of the Israelites. They wanted to stay in comfort and just be satisfied with their misery. Finances is the same thing. Do you want to stay comfortable with how you're giving or what you're giving or if you're giving and continue to struggle with your finances? Or give in obedience what the Lord is telling us to give and just watch what happens. Your life will be changed. So it's not just a financial talk, but at the same time, it is. It is. This is another piece of it. We are a place that is not going to just be quiet about certain things because it's a touchy topic. Either you choose to be obedient to the Lord or you don't. It's not about Upper Room. It's not about, I don't like what Upper Room does with their money. That's not your problem. That is the Lord's problem. Does that make sense? And we hope that you would trust the leadership and the board and all these things to do the right things with it. And obviously you can see the fruit of it and things like that. But you get what I'm saying? That's where we get hung up. I don't trust them. I don't want to give to that. I don't like that. I'm going to give to that. Or I'm not going to give anything because I need to give to myself. And so it's an obedience issue that would allow your life to change immensely. Okay. When we choose to go from faith and discomfort, our lives change. All right. Matthew 16:24. And this is the end. I don't have a phone. I don't know what time it is. 11:33? Yes. All right. Matthew 16. Then Jesus said to his disciples, whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for me will find it. What good will it be for someone to gain the whole world, yet forfeit their soul? Or what can anyone give in exchange for their soul? Every single morning, we get the choice. Am I going to stay comfortable today? Or am I going to take up my cross, crucify my selfish nature, kill it, and walk out of the bed being ready to be made uncomfortable? What if we were like, yes, today I get to be uncomfortable. What are we going to do? It's going to be amazing. Imagine being willing to get out of your comfort zone, being willing to let the Lord mess up your routine. Let him mess up your schedule. I got so mad one time, and then I got over it in the Dominican when I couldn't have my eggs. I couldn't have my eggs for breakfast. And I really want to get my protein in the morning when I wake up because I knew that I'd be hungry all day and then I'd pass out because if I don't get enough food, I start to get dizzy. And then when I'm hot, it's just a big thing. So I'm very particular about these certain things. I wanted eggs and I wanted bacon. Avocado would have been great, but no one had avocado. So the one day, I wanted the breakfast. We go to the buffet. I'm sorry, I don't love buffets. You might. It's fine. I don't. It makes me uncomfortable. And so there I was, being uncomfortable. The line was, I promise you, 30 people deep. They had one guy, I'm on a story tangent. They had one guy work in the Blackstone. One guy. There was 30 people. And I stood and I waited and I waited. In the meantime, Aaron was like, you know what? You go get in line. You get your omelet. He's like, I'll just sit here and hold our table. I should have taken a picture of this because I was like deep into the line and I look out. I could see him from where I was. He was sitting on the very furthest table outside. Perfect view of the ocean. He was just living his best life. And I was sweating on the verge of passing out. I needed my food. And so I just left the line. I just left. I can't do it. I walked out. I was like, I can't do this. You can go get in line. I don't know. I'm just going to find whatever I can eat, And so he was like, oh my gosh. And so then he was like, it's not that hard. It's not that big of a deal. You can just go in and do it. And so he's like, I'll do it for us. And so he grabbed his plates. And he went and got in line. I'll just say this. It was too long of a line for him. He didn't wait in that line. So we never got omelets. But all that was there around for me was just fruit and this and that. So all that to say, I was uncomfortable because I was pressed out of my routine of what I wanted, what I needed, what was going to make me feel better. Like it was just me. And so maybe the Lord's dealing with me on being selfish too. I don't know. But all I know is this. He wants us to be uncomfortable, not because he's mean or angry or because we deserve to be uncomfortable. No, because he knows that he gets the glory. We grow and draw closer to him, and lives are changed. Lives are changed. And so this is the opportunity now. The opportunity is, are you going to say yes? Yes, I will do this. Here's the last story. We were outside at our house yesterday. We get these little toads all around our pool, and they all hop into the pool and die. It's like I think they want water, they think it's a pond, and they can't survive. And so we are always giving out these cute little toads. Well, there was one in there yesterday. He was still alive, and he was swimming and everything. And I was like, let's save him. So we scooped him up, and I wanted Hadassah to see it. So I left it on the ground underneath the net, and I got her out there. And I was like, look what we caught. As soon as I lifted the net, I thought I was saving his life. As soon as I lifted the net, it hopped right back in the pool. I was like, Lord, this is such a great analogy. He wanted comfort, and it was the death of him. I'll probably go in there today, and he'll be floating around in the skimmer because he just wanted to be comfortable. And that is such an image of our amazing God. He calls us to be uncomfortable because he loves us. It's because he doesn't want to see us die. He has so much more for us in our discomfort. Isn't that wild? All right, so maybe if music, I don't know, if you guys want to play music, I don't mind. But I want to have you stand and just in the name of discomfort, here's what I want us to do. How many actually loved moving seats and you got comfortable real fast? That was great. You saw, oh my gosh, when you sit somewhere else, you get a new view. You get a new perspective. Like people who went from that side to this side, you're probably like, oh my gosh, I didn't notice that on the stage before. Your whole view changes. That's a great message too. What we're going to do is I want to give you this opportunity because like I said, I don't think this is just for today. I don't think this is just a good word for today and then you leave and you're like, that was a great word. I think that there's an opportunity for us to walk this out in the coming days, weeks, months on two levels. One, personally. And personally, that affects marriages, families, relationships, jobs, all that, right? Individually, that affects those things. And then on the other end of it is the upper room side of it. And so if you're part of upper room, or maybe you're thinking about being part of upper room, you get this opportunity too, because we are heading into major change. We are heading into things that are going to make you and me feel very uncomfortable. And so we get this opportunity to say, I choose discomfort. I choose to be obedient. I choose to step out when the Lord asks me. If he wants me to pray with somebody, I'm going to do it. If he wants me to give, I'm going to do it. If he wants me to change my habits, I'm going to do it. If he wants me to deal with my mess, I'm I'm going to do it. The sozo cards are in the pockets of the seats. There's no better time than now to deal with your mess. When weird people, I hope that's not rude. I'll say it like this. When people who are different than me walk in this room, I'm going to embrace them in love. It's uncomfortable. We're going to do it. Okay? All right. So the way that we make this declaration is they're just going to play music. I'm going to pray over us. But if that's you, I want you to step out of your seat, and we're going to just flood the altar. And I feel like it's just like this proclamation of, okay, I'm willing. I'm not going to be, is the word staunchy when you're like, I'm not going to be like that. Sometimes I have like facial things instead of words. It's like, when you're like, I'm not, that's not, no. It's your choice today. There's going to be things that I'm going to say and Aaron's going to say and other people are going to say that are going to make you so upset that they're going to be like, oh, they're pushing me out of my comfort zone. And you're going to be like, yes, let's do it. And so, if that's you, come on. We're going to this is an agreement as a family, a family of God. Okay? So it's for two reasons. Individually, God knows your yes. It's individually, and we need you as upper room family. We need you to embrace this and to say yes to this. Like, as a family member of upper room, I'm going to get uncomfortable and I'm not going to run. I'm not going to go off on somebody and be like, why did they change that? Why did they paint that color? Why did they preach that message? Why did they, XYZ, fill it in. But this is I just think this is a pivotal moment where we get to say yes to that and yes to even personally, like, Lord, this is a big prayer. But Lord, make me uncomfortable. Let me say yes to discomfort. Let me be brave. It does take courage to say yes to this. And so here we go. I'm just going to put it on our hearts. Let's do our hands on our hearts. I'm just going to pray over all of us, including me. I'm speaking to myself. I just hope everybody knows that. Obviously, the Lord started doing this work in me, and I don't know. It's absolutely not ended. I think it's going to be a process. But that's how it is with all of us. So, Lord, thank you. Thank you for this beautiful invitation. Thank you that you give us the option to do things, to make choices, to live our lives in such a way that you get glory. Number one, first and foremost, you get all the glory. In our discomfort, you get made famous. You get glorified, Lord. In our discomfort, help us to remember to glorify you through it. Lord, thank you that in our discomfort, we will grow. That you will cause us to grow as we walk through things. It draws us closer to you, that we put our eyes on you as the teacher. That you are our comfort. You cause us to grow into the person in the upper room body that you want us to be, a part of the kingdom body that you want us to be. Let us grow into that as we say yes to discomfort. And then lastly, Lord, that lives are changed. It starts with ours. Let us get uncomfortable in such a way that our life is changed, and then it flows out and causes lives to be changed, God. And again, we know it's a risky prayer. But we also know that your Holy Spirit will give us courage to walk it out, So we love you, Lord. We thank you, Lord. Thank you for unity. Thank you for your blood. Thank you for your body. Thank you that you were broken, beaten, all the things. You were uncomfortable so that we could be made whole. Lord, you're the ultimate example. The ultimate example. You could have stayed comfortable. You chose discomfort so that our lives could be changed. You're amazing, Lord. We love you so, so much. Okay. Yes and amen. Yes and amen. All right. The prayer team will come up, but I just think, like, while you're all around each other, just I don't know, if you feel led, pray for each other, encourage each other. Encouraging just looks like someone and going, your week's going to be amazing. Just like encourage each other. Maybe you have a funny thing that makes you uncomfortable. Share it. That'd be fun. All right? You guys have an awesome, awesome week. Be ready for some incredible messages coming from Aaron. It's going to be so good. Love you guys.